righty. Hello, everyone. Richard Carlton. Welcome to a special edition of FMtraining.tv where we're doing a live Saturday broadcast for the beginners, for the new people who are part of the FileMaker community, or maybe you're interested in the FileMaker community, the platform. What's it about? Why do I care? What's so great about it? And so we're going to answer questions and be focused primarily on beginning element. Now, we broadcast Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock. However, today's a special edition. This broadcast is brought to you by Richard Carl Consulting and FMtraining.tv. We are broadcasting in high definition on Twitch, on YouTube, and we happen to be on Discord as well. And so the group of people that are here today are not normally the Monday through Friday folks. These are folks that are here today, worldwide audience. So if you have questions, definitely ask the questions. In fact, if you chime in, you chirp in, let me know your name or part of your name or whatever you want us to know, but let us know your city and country would be great, or city and geographical region. That would be awesome. We have people from all over the world, Canada, the UK, Russia, Australia, people all over. So real quick, I'm gonna jump over here to my basic slideshow, but I'm gonna do demos as needed along the way, answer questions along the way. So if you have questions, throw them in there. I got Foxy Jack and Jericho One from our normal Monday through Friday operation. If they have questions, they should definitely ask those questions. We also have a number of lurkers on YouTube and Discord or Twitch, YouTube and Twitch. And so where you're lurking, I can't really see you, but if you have a question, odds are, almost certainly, if you have a question, other people will have the same question, and so you should ask the question, right? So that's great. So moving along, this is the slide of who I am. Basically, I've been around so long that pretty much there's very few people at Clara/FileMaker anymore who were there when I first started, right? So we are the top level consultancy. I've been in the business now coming up on 31 years. We have about 35 engineers. I kind of lose track because my team kind of hires and moves along people fairly frequently. I think it's probably pretty close to 35 staff at this point. We are headquartered in North America, and you can visit our consulting site at rcconsulting.com. Or more importantly, if you want to go to fmtraining.com, I'm going to just pop up a browser here real quick if I can do that. If I go over here to my browser, I still go to fmtraining.tv. It's right here. You can see the tabs across the top here. The live training is our upcoming schedule. We have a very awesome upcoming schedule this coming week, 1 o'clock every day. They're all recorded. And so in a moment, we're going to show you how to go watch those previous recordings. It's pretty great stuff. So this coming week is a 5-day session from user design expert Nick Hunter. Nick Hunter is one, I could say probably the top 2 or 3 people in the FileMaker community who does user interface design. He worked at Apple. He worked in the user interface group. He was trained by the interface group at Apple. He worked at Claris up until about 4 or 5 years ago, but he was there a long time. So we let him kind of run wild with the FileMaker platform. So this is our upcoming schedule. 1 o'clock Monday through Friday. Welcome Emmanuel from Italy. Thank you. And Jeffrey from Alabama. You folks have questions, definitely let us know. That way I can be as responsive to you, because it's a pretty small audience today, unlike a lot of Monday through Fridays where we have like a solid 50, 60, 70 people there most days. Because you see some of them on Discord and YouTube and Twitch. And then there's hundreds and hundreds that watch the video over the following week because they can't catch it live, because sometimes, you know, if they're in Australia, it's pretty early. And in some parts of the world, it's middle of the night, so it's really hard to catch it live. There's only so much I can do about that. So if you folks have questions, definitely ask questions seriously. I utterly mean that. If you find value in what we're doing, but you want more of a cohesive, structured FileMaker training course, for those of you who don't have it, you can come over here to the individual courses. You can see the courses that we offer, but anymore we don't really sell them individually anymore. We sell them as bundles, where you can buy the bundle and you get all the courses, and it's an annual subscription. And we have some discount coupons if you folks are interested, but you'd have to say, hey, we want that. Foxy Jack says, I'm interested in what designates a user from a licensing perspective. Okay, Foxy Jacks, I want you to I'm going to do terminology here real soon, like in 5 or 10 minutes. Can you expand upon your question a little bit? Like when you see user, where are you seeing that term? And in licensing, I'll take a guess at what you mean, but if you have any additional color on that question. So we already got questions coming in. It's really great. Terminology is one of the sections we have right here at the beginning of the course. So want to support the channel, want to encourage us to keep doing live streams. We've been doing them every day since March. some March, so we'll be coming up on 1 year where we're doing live streams every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes weekends like this special edition right now. So I'm going to come back over here. We don't really care who we are too much. Here is what I have come to the conclusion over a number of years, that there are basically 4, 5, 6 groups. Depends how you cut them up, but you have basically business owners or managers who have people who work for them who do FileMaker stuff. And they don't really care so much about that it's FileMaker, probably. They just care that they're using software that has a real high return on investment. And so that's that group of people over here on the left. And you got your brand new developers, which hopefully are the people I'm talking to today, maybe some intermediate developers. If I have senior people show up, Amy Shealy, I don't know where you fit in the time. Kyle Williams just showed up. Decidedly not an advanced topic today. So today we're talking about really basic stuff, not JSON, SQL, APIs, or any of that kind of stuff. Today is like basic, like breathing oxygen. Oxygen in, right? Carbon dioxide out, etc. Right? You need water, food, nourishment. Basic FileMaker stuff today. So, so the our target audience conversations today with this group of people here. Once again, we have people, Jeffrey Smith. Great, Jeffrey Smith, I will get to an update on that. I'm happy to. We actually talked about that quite a bit yesterday, but I'll do a recap for you on the FileMaker 19 and the M1 processor. Okay, so once again, today is for junior developers and intermediate developers primarily for. So I'm not really going to dive into what the seniors should pretty much know most of this already. So agenda today is terminology, right? Basic stuff. Then I'm going to cover some recent updates of things that have gone on with Claris, and I'm going to point you to videos that we've already done and shot, because a lot of this material is already shot. And if I can answer it quickly, I will. But I had like a gentleman the other day give me a bunch of questions, and each question was like a 30 or 45-minute question. He gave like 8 of them. And so what I did is I directed him to specific URLs in our training where he could learn that material. What today is not as a conversation about advanced topics or things like that. And there's Nico, right on Nico. So some of the questions here are some of the stuff that you asked about. I need, Nico, for you to kind of regurgitate the questions that you still have questions on. So I'm going to dive into terminology real quick up front. And so here we go. So Foxy, was it Foxy Jack that had a question about the user perspective? So let me get that in a second. So first off, the company that makes FileMaker has had several different names. And so the company was originally acquired by Apple. The original company was acquired by Apple. Apple owns it, and Apple still owns it. And the company was named Claris. And then about 15, 20 years ago, they changed what Claris did to make, instead of selling several different products, including a CAD software and some other stuff, they had it focused just on one of their products called FileMaker. And so when they took away all the other products, they took Claris and renamed it FileMaker Incorporated. So it was kind of confusing because you had FileMaker Incorporated building the FileMaker product. After about 15 or 20 years, we all got used to that. It was all great. And then about a year ago, a little over a year ago, Claris decided that, or FileMaker Inc. decided that they're going to change the name back to Claris because they have a new CEO and they want to like differentiate what they're doing now versus what. So FileMaker now, if you just say the word FileMaker, is a generic term. It largely will indicate the name of the platform. The platform is all the software that works, that goes together, that makes it work. And so the FileMaker, you'll hear the FileMaker platform, or if someone says, hey, I have this question about FileMaker, really the word after that probably they're implying is platform. It's a very loose term. They're really not necessarily talking about a specific product, probably. So the company is now called Claris. They're owned by Apple. In fact, the company is relocating and trying to move into Apple corporate offices in Cupertino, from what I understand, San Jose and Cupertino. And so the platform is called FileMaker. Then you see these other 4 terms, which really screws people up all the time. And what you see is the term template, solution, database, or app, or custom app. This is a function of the marketing department at Claris trying to just move the furniture, right? And I understand that they're trying to be more, to describe the product more accurately given market conditions, because like these days, everything's about, hey, do you have an app for that? There's an app for that. There's an app for that, for my phone, for my iPad, for my laptop, whatever. And so really what Claris figured out was that what people build with FileMaker are their own custom app. But over the years, you've seen the word template, solution, database. Now, database is part of a custom app. That's really what FileMaker is. It's an organization of data with a graphical interface and business workflow, a bunch of interesting stuff that make it a very unique product, very powerful product. We like to sit and kind of whine about some of the things that it doesn't do very well, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't be here doing this every day if the product didn't kick serious. It's quite good. So let's talk about some other terminology. This comes from Nico, who was here. I copy and pasted this out of an email. He said, hey, I don't understand when people say FM standalone, FM server, FM seats, FM cloud. And this is also going to tie into Foxy Jack's question, I think, a second ago. So let me start with FM. Let me start with products. So in the world of FileMaker products, there's the client software is what users or developers will use to access a FileMaker. I'll call it a FileMaker solution. I use these terms up here at the top kind of interchangeably. Mostly for me, it's a solution or a database. A custom app is kind of a newer term, but when I think about app, I think about completely self-contained apps like Instagram or Facebook app. That's something that you download from the App Store. FileMaker Go is an app. It's the client for iOS devices. So let's talk about the clients in the world of FileMaker. So everyone, we know what this is right here. We go. We got FileMaker Pro, Mac and Windows. It's what users use on Mac and Windows. To build the application, to also to use it. It is the most powerful client software available, period. Not a negotiation on that. It is the most powerful, the most flexible, period. Now, they took FileMaker Pro many years ago, they hacked it, and they removed the development features in it, and they created FileMaker Go. So FileMaker Go comes from the code, the source code for FileMaker Pro, and that's specific to iOS devices, so that's iPhones and iPads, and it resizes and adjusts appropriately. It's a free application that you can download for the iOS devices. You cannot build or customize an application, a database, a solution. You can't do that, but you can open it up, access the data, edit the data like an end user would use. But doing development and constructing of it, you don't do that with FileMaker Go. And so FileMaker Pro, Mac and Windows, FileMaker Go on iOS devices. Theoretically, someday some sort of FileMaker for Android. But if you have your heart set on a version of FileMaker Go that works and looks and acts like Go, and it runs on Android, the best that I can tell is you're going to be pretty disappointed. I'm pretty sure what they're up to. And it's going to be pretty limited what you can do with Android. Right now, there's no Android real app on there. There is a third client, which is a web browser client, which kind of works on modern web browsers, and you can use it anywhere, and that's what people on Android devices use. It's called FileMaker WebDirect. So you got Pro, Go, WebDirect. WebDirect is what you use on everything else that doesn't use Pro or Go. So if you have a Microsoft Surface that can't use Pro or Go, you use WebDirect. If you or on a Mac or a Windows computer and you really don't want to install the client but you want to use a browser, then you can use WebDirect. WebDirect is generated and published from a FileMaker server. So let's talk about the servers real quick. So those are the clients we talked about a second ago. When I say FileMaker server, it's an extraordinarily loose and misleading term. So FileMaker, you can say FileMaker server. Hey, put that on the FileMaker server. Very loosely, a FileMaker server is a machine, a server that sits somewhere, either in an office or in the cloud, and it publishes or sends out your custom application to multiple users simultaneously. That's what it does. And so people say, hey, the FileMaker server is slow, or the FileMaker server has crashed. That just means that wherever the machine is, whatever that machine is, it may be slower having a problem. People use the word FileMaker server just to indicate the machine that's doing the hosting, right? The serving of it. Specifically, this is an area that's been kind of confusing because Claris is kind of trying to remake the platform a little bit. But there is the traditional FileMaker server, which is Mac and Windows. It's software you install on Mac or Windows. So you can put it in your office, you can put it up on the cloud, you can run a virtual server on the cloud, you can put it up there. There's also a version now for Linux. So if you're a technical kind of person, very technical, and you like Linux, you can put it up on Linux. So you have Mac, Windows, Linux, okay? Then there is FileMaker Cloud. FileMaker Cloud is basically a service that Claris created, and there's kind of this deprecated Cloud 1 version, and there's this Cloud 2. Claris doesn't refer to Cloud 1 anymore because they haven't sold it in like a year, and it's going to be totally shut down in about 13 months. And so this was their first attempt. It worked pretty good. But basically what Claris did is they take FileMaker Server, they combine it with some hardware, and they sell it as a service. So that's FileMaker Cloud. What is FileMaker Cloud? It's basically a variation of FileMaker Server. So once again, you got FileMaker Server for Mac, Windows, Linux. Then you have a kind of a FileMaker Server that Claris bundles with hardware, and they call that FileMaker Cloud. Once again, it's server, but it comes with the hardware. You pay one price for it per month, and Claris handles the hardware for you and the software and the updates for you, things like that. And it's pretty price competitive with smaller numbers of users. Not so much at higher numbers of users. It's kind of pricey. And the FileMaker development community really, despite I'm not sure what the deal is with Claris on this, but the FileMaker development community, anyone who does synchronization or a lot of very interesting API work and things like that, they don't use FileMaker Cloud 2 because FileMaker Cloud 2 has a lot of third-party limitations in terms of synchronization, things like that. A lot of consultancies don't recommend it. Don't recommend it at all, because as soon as you say you want to have like a synchronization, like you have an iPad in the desert and you want that person to synchronize, you can't do that realistically with cloud. So it's kind of an interesting issue there. So I want to go back to what Foxy Jack said here, and then which was talking about users. So what is a user? A user is a person. It's not a computer. It's a person that uses FileMaker. So I'm a really interesting example of person with too many computers, right? So I'm sitting here working on this sound booth. I have a identical sound booth with, so there's two computers here, FileMaker running here, FileMaker running here. I got a computer in Santa Clara, sound booth in Santa Clara with 3 computers, and my main desktop set up in my other home office on the other side of the wall here is like 4 or 5 computers. So I have like upwards of 10, not counting laptops, I have upwards like 10, 11, 12 computers personally dedicated to me. Some of them are new, a lot of them are older. That's because they still work. I don't get rid of them necessarily. And they do different things for me, you know, doing newsletters, writing emails, things like that. But they all are running FileMaker. And so do I have to buy 11 copies of FileMaker? No, I am one user. I'm Richard Carlton. I buy 1 copy of FileMaker and I use it on all those machines. That's the legal definition of it. Very important. So in terms of licensing, what Claris will do, especially with Cloud 2, but what they try to do is most people don't have 5 computers. Most people go through life with a laptop and a phone. That's the standard issue for most normal humans. And so if you buy a 5-pack of licenses, I call it a 5-pack, like a pack of, you know, like a 6-pack of beer, right? People are drinking beer. It's a, if you buy a 5 license or 5 seats, a seat, a license, a pack, it's all the same thing. It's 6 people. It's a 5-user license set. That means you're licensed for 5 different people to use that FileMaker software. That makes sense? And so if you buy 5 people, now the idea is that Claris generally expects that each person would be using 1 copy of FileMaker at a time. Strictly speaking, well, I don't want to get into that too much unless Foxy Jack has a question about that. But the issue is basically is that Claris is getting to a point where they're trying to count the people, not the machines. So Richard Carlton could log into 11 machines and they would count me as 1 user, because really at any given time I can only use 1 machine. But I literally sit at a desk and turn this way and work on a machine, then turn this way, then turn this way, and then turn this way and work on a machine. And I'm really using 1 computer at a time, right? And that's their licenses. Is not, they don't worry about me too much. They mostly about 1 user and 1 person, right? So that's the definition of that. And Nico has a question. My basic question would be this one. If I build my own FileMaker app from scratch, but without the needed knowledge at the beginning, so it's a mess, but it works. Now I want to and need to learn to clean up to move forward. Do you have advice, criteria on bringing my application forward? Knowing how to build is online and live, so it contains crucial data I need to transfer. Let's talk about the progression of learning. So I'm going to go back to a slide up here. It's chapter 1 in the revised book. There's a totally new set of videos that are being reviewed right now for the Pro 19 course. We reshot all the performance videos because the performance videos have everything to do with what Nico's asking this question here. So Nico's asking this question. Okay, I'll get back to Manuel. I have not forgot you, Manuel. I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to deal with Nico's question here real quick on this. So I call it the progression of learning. And so I'm going to use this diagram right here because it's really useful. I use this in the book too. These are in the book. So let's just take the business owner out of the way here, and you've got kind of this is the continuum of learning. And the continuum here is that you start off as a brand new developer, and then you end up over here, and you end up over here. Then somewhere in this range here, maybe a little over here, you start to get Nick Hunters of the world, you get Kyles of the world, you get people who have a lot of technical skill, and they can do some pretty impressive things. So, so Nico is saying that. So here's the important thing to understand. When you're a brand new FileMaker developer, the progression of learning is that you open up FileMaker, and you're going to pick anything you want to build. I want to build a contact record. I want to build an invoice. I want FileMaker to send me a text message, whatever. Whenever you build something in FileMaker, there's probably anywhere from 5 or 10 different ways to build the same thing. If I said, build me a house, and it has to have 4 bedrooms and a roof and a bathroom and stuff like that, you could build it out of brick. You could have people's different levels of skill. They could build it out of wood. You could build it out of steel. You could have tilt-up concrete. There's a bunch of different ways you could build a house. Okay, now there's cheaper ways, more expensive ways, ways that are hurricane-proof, more beefy, robust, reliable. Other ways where you could build a house where, you could build it in such a way that you had to crawl between the rooms, right? And it's not very fast to move from room to room because the doorway is only 4 feet tall, and to move from room A to room B, you have to crawl under the doorway. And so understand that there's all these different ways of building a house. When you're brand new in FileMaker, there's all these ways of building a solution. You're going to build to the first way that works. And I'm telling you, it's nothing you realize at the time. Nico's starting to understand this, but if there's 12 ways of building it, some of those ways are better, some of them are not as good. They all will work, okay? And as a brand new person, when you get it to work, that's all you care about. And so the progression of learning is that you start to build things and you get them to work, and you're happy they work. This even happens to me sometimes. We do internal systems at RCC, and we're doing some pretty advanced stuff, and we get to a point where it works. We're like, thank God it works. We're done, moving on to the next job. And the reality is that what happens normally in the progression of learning for Nico is that your solution becomes useful to people. It becomes valuable to people. Therefore, those people want to use it. Therefore, you're going to have to put it on a FileMaker server, a very loose term that we talked about before. It means Mac, Windows, Linux, up in the cloud, in the office, doesn't matter. You have to put it somewhere where it's going to be hosted. When you do that, and then you have 5 or 10 people or 20 or 100 or 500 people access it, performance will be a consideration. When you were first building it, you didn't care if it went fast or not. You just cared that you had a house with a roof that would keep you dry with 4 bedrooms in it. That's all you cared about. You didn't care, like if I was getting my first house and trying to get out of the rain and it had a 4-foot doorway in it and I had to crawl through from room to room, I don't give a okay? Because I'm dry, I'm outside the weather, it works, I built it myself, I am stoked. That is the world of a brand new FileMaker developer. Then other people say, hey, that's a really great house you built. Can you share the house with me? And you're like, okay, cool, I'll duplicate the house, copy paste, the house is next door. And the people go in there and they're like, well, this 4-foot hallway room is okay for me, but I got 8 people in here trying to share it, and 8 people on the floor crawling from room to room. They got to go to the kitchen to get a Diet Coke, they got to crawl back, and they're running into each other. So you have to run into performance issues, right? And so the issue, the continuum of learning, and I'm not reading messages over here right now because this is a very cool piece of thought I have to carry all the way through. And that is that between brand new developer, the green one, and the intermediate developer over here, what happens is that someone asks you to share it, you get pushed back, the performance isn't great, so you have to go back and revisit what happens. The number one thing that you're going to do in terms of performance, and I'll cover lean design in a second because it fits in here, but the number one thing you're going to do is take the calculations and primarily the calculations and the summary fields that you have, and you're going to turn those into number fields in the file and remove that code and put it into scripts, and then trigger the scripts only when you want that code to run. What normally happens, what people get in trouble with, is that FileMaker behind the scenes basically does what it wants. It does things when it wants. This is the way I explain to my sales guy who's not really a technical person, so I'm giving you the same explanation. If FileMaker, for some reason, FileMaker wants a summary or a total, and it's in a field calculation or a field definition somewhere, it's going to do it when it wants to. Even if you don't want it to run, it's going to do that, and when it does it, there's a performance hit. And if it's just you running it locally, that's one thing. But if you have 8 or 10 or 20 people and they're all getting this performance hit, those performance hits can stack up on the FileMaker server, can cause a big slowdown. And so the idea is that you need to wrestle control from FileMaker, from the automation of the automatic processing of the calculations on screen, the summary fields on screen. Now, you got them to work before. Now you know that there's 5 or 10 different ways of doing it. We're going to find a more speedy way of having it do the same thing. And so what you end up doing is you end up abstracting all the calculations and everything out of the field definitions to where you have text fields, number fields, date fields, time fields. No calculations in it. You might have an auto enter. That would be probably about it. No validations. I don't believe in using the validations in there. You use validations with a script. So you control everything with scripts. Why do you control things with scripts? Because scripts only fire when you, the developer, decide you want to run. Either a trigger fires it or a button fires it, but it doesn't fire it behind your back. Because in FileMaker, if you build it at the basic level, as you're going through the system and flipping from layout to layout, whatever, FileMaker's doing all sorts of stuff behind your back. It's like, it's like you're trying to work and you have 5 people behind your back talking about you behind your back. Psst, oh, you see that Sheely and then Nico over there? Psst, don't talk. Psst, no, we're going to do, psst, no, that person's a really bad person. You don't need FileMaker talking about you behind your back, working behind your back. And then before long, you have 5 people back there. What if you have 30 people back there talking? I mean, the slowdown can get tremendous. And so that's the difference in the progression of learning. You're learning at the intermediate level to abstract your code, put it into scripts. Then from intermediate developer to senior developer, you start to get into lean design. Nick likes to think lean design is this entire continuum, but really the lean design is where you've kind of moved your stuff into scripts, and then some of the scripts are still not as fast as they need to be, and then you're looking for kind of weird little esoteric things that you can do, very FileMaker-y kind of things, to speed up FileMaker. Certain kinds of functions, custom runs, like for example, a custom function runs faster than a script does. Who would know that? No one would know that, but Nick knows that. Some people know that, and so that's more of a lean design. So that is the progression between the intermediate developer and senior developer, is that you abstracted everything into scripts, and it's probably 10 to 20 times faster. But is it still fast enough? Maybe you could improve performance some more. And then you start putting things into custom functions, let functions, while statements, all sorts of interesting kind of different. That's kind of, yeah. So Nico says the first time it's like you get it to work and you're just thrilled. Exactly. And so it's one of the things as a trainer I had to learn. I had to kind of go back, and part of it is during the live stream I watch you, right? I'm actually in there. I'm watching Jake, and I'm watching Amy, and I'm watching Megan, and I'm seeing what you say, and I'm looking at what you look at. And I have 3 brand new juniors that are brand new that fell off the hay wagon last week, and you're watching them, and when they get to work the first time, they are thrilled. That's when people get hooked on FileMaker, because they could build something themselves and it worked, right? So that is the secret sauce. And then but that's just the beginner. And then you want to share it. Then you go, oh crap, I can't have 8 people crawling on their hands and knees because the doorway is only 4 foot high, right? I mean, there's a door over here. I'm gonna turn this into my house. So there's the door. My wife might walk out of there any second. What if that doorway was only as high? It's about halfway up there, and you had to be on your hands and knees to get through there. And there's my emergency fridge, and there's where my Diet Cokes are, all that kind of stuff. And so I can get my drinks out, I can stay hydrated. And if I had to get on my hands and knees, man, that would suck. So the first thing we do is we take the calculations out of the field definitions and we move them into scripts, and then we only activate them when we want. We take the decision-making process away from FileMaker, and we make the decisions. We only run it when we need to, right? Very cool. And Manuel says, hi, Richard. For me, WebDirect is misery. How much cost to configure this? There are a handful of people who are really great at WebDirect. You can do basic stuff with WebDirect, but when you try to take like a CRM like FM Starting Point and put it into WebDirect, it's just a lot of gotchas, and it's very sensitive to really efficient design. Once again, lean design that you're having over here on this kind of senior ninja side. My official statement is I only use WebDirect if you can't get there with Pro or Go. For example, if I have 100 people to open a WebDirect page on a browser, probably upwards of 7 or 8 or 9%, 10% of those people, that when they log in, it'll hang. or as they're flipping between layouts, it'll hang for some reason. Why does it hang? Because there's a bug in the code or the browser sucks or whatever the issue is. That doesn't happen in Pro. It just works in Pro. You don't have it magically hang. If you hung FileMaker, there's a network problem or your machine's crash or some other bad thing has happened. But you can have WebDirect just magically not work, okay? And so if I'm a pilot, and so guess what? If I have something that's 7, 8, 9, 10% chance of it falling off the aircraft, like the engine exploding and falling off or something like that, I ain't going to use that ever, because that's a really high percentage for something that's dangerous. If you want to recommend, if your reputation is worth a lot, you don't want to trash it. If you recommend something to your customer that has a 90% success rate, that means 10% of the time the customer is going to be pissed off. So I don't consider that a win. So if you need with WebDirect, you keep it simple. If you have there's some companies out there that need WebDirect and they're willing to write a check, they get someone like Nick involved and they build it and it works great. And you can do some things yourself, but I just think that you build it in Pro, you build it in Go, and then you need to look at really the financial incentive for porting it and going through it and making sure it works great with WebDirect. I think it's important. All right, so that was a question from there. I'm going to flip back to, I want to cover the Big Sur question because I know Jeffrey's been waiting on this for a while. Jeffrey in Alabama. So yes, so we had an update on FileMaker 19. So FileMaker 19 is not Big Sur certified. They're working on FileMaker 19.2. I don't know when you're going to see that. There's a lot of little bugs and issues with it. Not only that, but there's the bug and issues they have to fix, but on the new M1 processors, Apple has these new processors, they call them Apple Silicon, right? But in order to take advantage of them, Claris has to compile, recompile, and potentially rewrite some of the libraries. Doesn't matter. They have some programming work to do to get to work. So there's really two things that need to go on. One is fix the bugs in FileMaker that work with Big Sur. But then they also have to kind of optimize it for the M1 chip. And so those are two things that are going on. Michael Johnson, 24, was a guest speaker yesterday. He talked about the fact that it's going pretty well, although they definitely feel like they're a beta tester, a beta user. And so is it ready yet for Big Sur? It kind of mostly works. There's some issues with certain screen redraw issues and things like that. Paulo says, is it possible to constrain a quick find? I would recommend, I've had company tables. Did you watch the constrain and extend video, Paulo? I'm going to ask for you to, because that was a video just recently. So I guess that's a good time for me to kind of sequentially go through this. The next thing I want to talk about is if you want to look at recent live streams, probably the easiest way to do it is to go to this link right here. It's case sensitive, so make sure you type it the way you see it. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/FM training videos, right? One word. And this will get you a download of the video player app. It's a free app. There's a free tier in here where you can watch all the live streams for free. The pre-recorded ones, we post all those to Vimeo. We don't post the live streams. Well, they get posted to YouTube, but YouTube is such a mess. We pay Vimeo as a professional business arrangement. There are no ads on Vimeo. So when you watch the videos through this video player, there will be no commercials about Viagra or car insurance or Geicos or Geckos or any of that kind of stuff will be in there. It's pretty clean, which is nice. Do custom functions do not present danger when changing server cloud system? No, custom functions are universally supported through all the clients and all the servers. That's good. Kyle, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I guess I'll just answer the question about plugins generically. So plugins are specific to, when you write a plugin, they really are specific to the operating system that you're building them for. So for example, 360works, I talked to the CEO there 4 or 5 days ago. And so his plugins are all Mac and Windows compatible. They are getting them Linux compatible. In fact, the mirror sync software, the syncing software does work already with Linux, but the installer is a little rough. You have to kind of manually install some stuff. But they're getting stuff Linux compatible, which is nice, but the plugin manufacturers need to do that. So they have to support that. There are no plugins that are supported on Cloud 2. It doesn't work that way. That's the problem with Cloud 2. Cloud 1 is deprecated. It's old, it's out of date. Cloud 2 is a current offering. It doesn't support plugins at all. So If you have a plugin installed on your client and you're connected to Cloud 2, that's okay. But we're talking about server-side plugins, because when you have a plugin, you can install the plugin on your client. You can install it on the server potentially on Mac, Windows, Linux, FileMaker Server. If you have FileMaker Cloud, you can't. Quick updates on other stuff here. So FileMaker Pro 19.1.3 is the current FileMaker Pro in market. It's not Big Sur certified. It's not optimized for the Apple Silicon. It does seem to work pretty well, runs pretty quickly, but it's not been optimized yet. So just understand, I wrote that down here. This is Claris's slide. They said, hey, Richard, you use our slide. I said, fine. But they left out the most important stuff like, hey, it's not Big Sur certified, baby. So the next Agile release, they didn't put this in there either. The next Agile release of Pro will support Big Sur. I don't know when they're going to have it native for the M1 Silicon, okay? The native for that new processor. Making it Big Sur compatible just means that it doesn't do any weird behavior, but in terms of optimizing it for speed, I don't know when that'll really happen. There's also the new 19.1.2 server. This is the new updated server. It's got a lot of improvements in it. This is the one that has the support for the Linux in it as well. And so should you use a Linux server, right? Well, basically it depends upon the support team that you have that are helping you build FileMaker servers. Linux is approximately the same speed as Mac and Windows, more or less. I think they're trying to tweak it to make it a little bit faster, but they might squeeze 10% out of it. But if you don't have someone fundamentally on your team that knows and uses Linux, but they know or use Mac or Windows, then you should use one of those instead. Don't use something that you don't know how to support, because if it crashes and you're trying to get it back up and your whole business is down, what did that buy you? Bought you a lot of stress and anxiety while you're waiting for someone to help you fix it, right? So we did shoot a video on walking through the Linux installation. We did this already with Jacob Taylor. There's the video right here. It's in that video player you saw up here. You could actually come up in the video player and do a search for Linux. If I pop it up right here, we type up here, right here, I type IPNUX, I do a search. And so these are the videos that came up. Right here is the Linux video right here, and that's the same video. So you can either watch it in the browser, right, with a link here that I give you, it drops on YouTube, or you can watch it, and of course that's likely to run a commercial or advertisement for you. Let me get rid of that. It's likely to run a commercial advertisement for you, so if you watch it here, it will be ad-free, which is always really nice. Nico asked a question, any criteria for splitting up scripts, not making them too long? When it comes to, we ran into this problem last Monday, and I kind of had a tantrum about it, and we kind of showed a video about me having a tantrum about this, but having a readable script to me is the number one thing. You need to be comfortable with what you're doing. If you're better off understanding a very long script as opposed to a shorter script, I think it's better about what you need to do to make it understandable. Because here's the thing you run into. People say, well, so I'm sure Kyle's going to say, well, if you break them apart and do this, and you'll save 5% performance speed or something, right? I'm pretty sure I think that's something that is a conversation. But I don't really care about the 5%. I care about the fact that you're going to write the script, and hopefully you'll put some notes in there and comments in it. But what is important to me as a trainer is to make sure that after you come back in 18 months to the script, and you don't remember what you did 18 months ago, you have to be able to read the script and understand what the hell you were doing so you can fix whatever's broke. You're like, go in there and fix that right away, right? And you're pointing at it, or your boss is pointing at it, and before you can even fix it, you have to know what the hell it's even doing, because you don't remember. And so the number one thing is your ability of your brain to come back up to speed with what you built. That is the number one thing. So you could be like, I'm going to break this down. I'm going to make this code so efficient and put all these scripts. And so instead of one long script, I'm going to have 20 scripts. But then as you're debugging the code, your brain has to keep track. Well, script A is here, then script B is there, and you have to pop them on the screen at the same time and kind of see how they work together. And then, but if you have a million scripts and you can't put them on screen at the same time, then how do you look at them cohesively? And so you need to look at things from a standpoint as, is it clear to someone else? Is it clear? Will it be clear to you in a year? Manuel says, is it possible to install FileMaker Server on a true NAS or core NAS? Okay, Manuel, I know the answer to that. I think it's possible. Okay, back up. You can install it. Is it a good idea is really the question you're asking. Is it a good idea and will I be screwed by doing this? Can I recommend that you talk to Jacob Taylor? Well, he won't charge you for this. Just send him an email to support RC Consulting, attention JT, if you want. And he is my server guy, and he would, because I don't know specifically what a true NAS is, right? On it, there's been some new NAS technology that's come out. There's been some other conversation I've seen on it between the CEOs and the FileMaker community. They were talking about it a little bit. But you really don't want any storage that's not local. You want the storage to be local. So if the storage is across the network, right, like it's an Ethernet connectivity between your machine and wherever the storage is, that network connectivity is going to slow things down. You want for best performance, you want the drives, the flash memory, the SSDs, whatever that NAS thing is, to be as plugged in, as integrated to the CPU of that computer as possible. So it could be external if you have, Thunderbolt 3 or 4, whatever it is, or USB 4, and then make it as fast as possible. But having it as a NVMe kind of chip, like a RAM chips these days, putting that on the machine, having it read and write to that, I think is by far the fastest thing you can do. For backups, maybe it's less of an issue, but some people, like I have a couple customers like 60, 70 gigabyte backups, and they were running around running spinning drives, and we had to literally slap them and get them to stop because their backups would take. We had this one customer, and they call us periodically. It's really kind of sad. They're in Texas, and they go, and they do one backup an hour, and the backup takes about an hour and 20 minutes to run. And so over the course of 24 hours, they're trying to do 26 or 27 hours of backups, and the thing kind of collapses in on itself. And I'm not quite sure. And we've been there, and they need to spend some money to help us help them fix it, because they've got themselves in such a technical hole that, in fact, it's been over a year. This issue has been with them over a year, and they keep hobbling along. Server crashes. They use a crashed file from the server. It's just all sorts of bad things that can happen. So it looks like it's it for the end of the question side of things. I'm going to remind everyone that Monday Nick starts up his 5 days of user interface training on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 to 5. Monday through Friday. There will not be a Dead Brute Friday next week because Nick will be very, very busy doing user interface stuff on iPhone and iPad. So that's it for now. Appreciate everyone. Look forward to you letting us know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. You have a question we didn't answer today, feel free to email it to support at rcconsulting.com, and that goes into our team, our triage team. I've got people who try to send me tech support questions on Udemy, on the chat there, on YouTube comments. Understand that if you put a question anywhere except to email to us, my tech support team, which is about 12 people, they're not randomly patrolling random forums on the internet looking to help people. We do once in a while some cleanup on that, but it's really, like I found some lady who asked me a question from September, a really great question, but she asked it in this really obscure spot. Now I said everywhere, please email support RC Consulting, because she puts it there. I have someone posting comments replying to a Dropbox link, and so Dropbox trying to be a social media outlet. I'm like, gee, okay. So understand that if you want to reply from us, don't bury it in Discord either. Send it to support RC Consulting, and that way it goes to a team. The team sees who it's for, and they make sure it gets in front of that person. So it's actually a process for triaging inbound traffic, right? I learned that actually from Palm Computing back in the day. NRRPC asked the question at 1 minute left in the hour, so we'll have to say that for another day. Where to start when cleaning up layouts? Yeah, Nick Hunter had some training about that. I would do a search for some of those topics. I'll see if Nick can remember the layout, but Nick did a thing where people submitted some really ugly layouts, and he went through a redesign on that with them. Not something I can cover in 30 or 40 seconds. That's actually a pretty big conversation. That was a 2 or 3 day conversation. That was an hour and a half each day. So it was quite a bit of content there. So Joel shoots me a question in the last second here. Is it possible to have a person machine that is not connected to a server, but then to update the server? Yeah, you need to. Okay, so Joel, here's the reality with this one. Joel, you were talking about offline synchronization. We talk about offline synchronization quite a bit in our training. I have had engineers come to me and go, in fact, the engineer doesn't work here anymore. It was kind of a funny thing. I just still remember this to the day. He came in and goes, I'm not going to buy 360 Works mirror sync software, which is what I recommend you do. I'm going to write my own because I'm a brilliant senior engineer and I've been working here for 15 years and I can do this and blah, 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 and beat his chest about how awesome he is. And so 300 hours later, he still didn't have it working because writing a legit high performance synchronization is a lot of work. It's very difficult. That's why you'd rather pay someone to do it. So you can pay $800 or $1,200 or whatever it is, and this other 360 Works has a product called MirrorSync. It does offline synchronization for you, Joel. Okay, unless you are literally a guy and your hourly rate is less than $5 an hour, and you're a senior level developer, then you can write your own. But you have to support it then, and if there's a bug, you have to fix it. My general suggestion is use the 360 Works MirrorSync product, and what it does allows you to have an offline copy. When it comes back online, they synchronize automatically. We have all sorts of videos on here. If you go in here to the course selection in here, you do a search. If you did sync, type the sync in, offline customer sync using your app, there's a video here. Then you go down here. There's all sorts of synchronizing between iPad. It's an older video, but it was an interview with Jesse Barnum at MirrorSync about that. And then clustering and replication. Then we did these videos down here, which was the LiveStream videos where we did basically offline synchronization or live synchronization between 5 different FileMaker servers around the globe for real-time replication. It was really, 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 really cool. I appreciate it. It was a neat event. So that's it for now. I appreciate everyone. We'll see you back Monday. Questions, send them to support RC Consulting. That's it for now. See ya.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.